Welcome. This is the third in our series of 4 classes on uniqueness and harmony. And in our last class, we focused more on our inner life. And well, the first class was just finding harmony in the different parts of our being. And the second class was focused on finding harmony between our manifest self and our transcendent or divine self. But in this class, we're going to talk about finding harmony out in the world, out in our life in the world. And Diane's going to start us off with a poem.
Yes, and I have an introduction to that poem by Hazrat Inayat Khan, although he didn't know I was going to be writing it probably, but he was very helpful anyway. And this is what he said about this topic. He said, "There's a way of calling one's very self. By calling one's real self, one naturally harmonizes one's spirit. And it may become so harmonized that both with friend and foe, one would feel harmony. Once we have communicated with ourself, once we have called ourself our real self, we become naturally harmonized with pain and pleasure, and we become contented with success and failure. For in the different experiences of our external life, there rises in the depth of our heart a harmony, a peace, and a power which keep us centralized." So when he says our real self, other words that I've heard people say, like Ibn Arabi, who is a Sufi from about the 1000s, he called that our personal Lord. And I call that, in this poem, the unique side of the divine who without me would not exist. So these are different ways that you might relate that intimate dialogue that you have with the divine, with God, with that inner self. So I named this the embrace. And here and now, I seek to allow the fullest embrace of my manifest self with the unique side of the divine who without me would not exist. Move through me now, miracle of existence, refresher of that desire that created all of this, yet comprises the most intimate thought, original in form, shaped by this very moment, by the deepest need in my heart. Come to me now, let me recognize you. I will give words to define you and call you my own. And I will hold you close, yet respecting your infinite embrace, as you see in me the promise of tomorrow." I'm going to read it one more time. The embrace. "And here and now I seek to allow the fullest embrace of my manifest self with a unique side of the divine who without me would not exist. Move through me now, miracle of existence, refresher of that desire that created all of this, yet comprises the most intimate thought, original in form, shaped by this very moment, by the deepest need in my heart. Come to me now, let me recognize you. I will give words to define you and call you my own, and I will hold you close, yet respecting your infinite embrace, as you see in me the promise of tomorrow." So, we're going to begin by doing a practice. These are, the Sufis work with what are called wazaif, or divine names. And we talked in the first class about the importance and harmony of establishing equilibrium, a balance in our being. And one area in which oftentimes people on a spiritual journey get way out of balance is the balance between the inner and the outer life, putting a huge emphasis on the inner life and kind of downplaying the significance of the outer life, or even just wanting to withdraw from it because it's so much more enjoyable to find beautiful, peaceful places within. But ultimately, it's an illusion to think there's a separation between those two. It really just has to do with where our consciousness is focused. It could be turned within, or it could be turned in an outward direction.
So this practice works with two divine names. The first is Batin, B-A-T-I-N, which means turning within. It's like the image of this is the veiled Virgin Mary, our inner life. And the other practice is Zahir, Z-A-H-I-R, which literally means the star. So it's like that light shining forth out into the world. And when we work with these practices, when we say them out loud, we invoke the divine quality by saying Ya, Y-A, which means O. So O, Ya Batin, Ya Zahir. And so when you say Ya Batin, just feel like you're just turning your awareness inwards. And when you say Ya Zahir, feel like you're turning your awareness back out into life. So I'll say it a few times out loud and then just join with me and really try to feel the vibration of the words. First you'll start by thinking of the meaning, but at some point you can just let go of that and just feel the vibration and that shift of focus from inner and outer, all parts of yourself, feeling like you're harmonizing the rhythm between those two.
Can you go over the meaning again?
So Batin is turning within, Zahir is the star shining forth into life, the expression of divinity shining out into the world. So it's Ya Batin, Ya Zahir, 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 Ya Batin, Ya Zahir. Once more. Ya Batin, Ya Zahir. And now we're going to work with what the Sufis call the Fikr, F-I-K-R, which means doing the practice on the breath. And when we do it on the breath, we just think the word, but we don't think the Ya. So you just think Batin as you breathe in, turning your awareness inward. And as you exhale, you think Zahir, turning your awareness outward. So do this at your own rate for a little bit. Breathe in Batin, breathe out Ya Zahir. And now we're going to do what's called the Fikr Asir, S-I-R-R, which means the secret of the practice, or the heart of the practice. So here we let go of thinking of the words, not trying to put it on the breath, not thinking of the meaning even, but just feeling what we're experiencing, what the atmosphere that's been created, the essence. So in thinking about this, trying to establish harmony and equilibrium, and we want this to be present both in our outer life and in our inner life. So what's one big obstacle that keeps us from doing this? Well, the Sufis talk a lot about the nafs, N-A-F-S, which means the ego. It's the limited self. It's the false sense of self, but really I like to think of it as our frame of reference, our identification with how we relate to who we are and how that relates to what we experience. So what we have just a natural tendency to do is to create what we could say is a construct, an artificial construct of our sense of identity, and we try to maintain that, whether it's in the outer circumstances or in the inner circumstances, everything in relation to that, which is separated. So we're separated from what we experience externally, and we're even separated from what we experience in our inner life when we do that, because we have this little cluster that's trying to connect with different things. Like, I want to hook this cluster up with a higher state of consciousness, or I want to experience some cosmic experience in the world, but it's like this little separate thing trying to get to something that doesn't fit within that. And so the more we try to do that, sometimes that works, especially if we're able to dominate in a particular circumstance and enforce our will upon something. We go, well, that's good, I got what I wanted. But it's ultimately not very satisfying because it's not bringing about harmony, and it's not really bringing about harmony within. So part of our process of awakening and our quest of establishing a state of harmony is freeing ourselves from that limited construct of what we identify with as ourself.
So the alternative is the sense of harmony in which we almost feel a weaving of energy, an effect upon ourselves and our effect upon others, new things coming into our lives, and some things that we already acknowledge going to the background perhaps. But we're now in this realm of saying that now we're looking at the outer circumstances and being in the world, as we call it. So how are we going to sense how we're doing with our harmony? And I thought about this. I thought it's difficult to tell the result of our efforts in the world sometimes, because sometimes we get something we want. Oh, I have wonderful ice cream at home waiting for me. Well then, is that harmony? I have something that I want? Or what is going to kind of help us to understand what harmony is? And I thought about, what if we had some kind of compass? Some kind of way of looking at, and it says, okay, this is a lot of harmony, or this is not very much harmony. Well, we don't have anything exactly like that, so what we need to do then is to find a way to judge these kinds of things, to know these kinds of things. Of course, I bet a lot of you think of in our hearts. Maybe that would be one way of thinking about that. I want to read something about Hazrat Inayat Khan's way of thinking. He said that if we would examine every action which has reflected a disagreeable picture of oneself upon our soul and caused darkness and dissatisfaction, on the one hand, that was kind of the ego is the way I think of it. What were you calling it?
Construct.
The construct that kind of sets us apart and competing with what's going on around us often. So that would be one picture that could reflect on our soul. And on the other hand, would consciously watch each thought, word, or deed had produced an inward love, inward harmony, and inward beauty, and each feeling which had brought you wisdom, calm, and peace, then the way of harmony between soul and body would be easily understood. So we're watching the effects of all these kinds of things and seeing, well, what did that produce in me? Maybe like even being in an art show, I might think that's a nice thing for me to do, but if I'm there looking at other people's art and saying, oh, that's not very good, or that's too good, they're going to win, and I'm not going to get a prize, and but otherwise I might have attended maybe the services here, and even though some of the words were difficult to understand, I just felt really good and lifted, and so I could start to My compass might be a list of all the different kinds of things that I'm feeling like this would be helpful for me to be doing right now. And I'll keep track of those things. And maybe these things, maybe when I'm stronger, I'd be able to go to those and do well with those. And continuing on this idea, there's an invocation in the Sufis organization that is something that it's something that you could think of every day. I've got one copy for you. And thinking these words and kind of dedicating ourselves in this way, maybe at the beginning of the day, might be a part of our compass. So listen to how it sounds. Toward the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls, who form the embodiment of the messenger, the spirit of guidance. Now, you might have something else that you say that it feels like builds that compass for you and helps you to feel that part of yourself that can say, yes, this is it, more of this. Because a lot of the time we're trying to judge from outside or have other circumstances. And this way would help us. And so I'll have that for you at the end of class.
So sometimes there's a tendency in our process of awakening to engage in what Kirvalai had called the spiritual bypass. And what does that mean? It means looking out in the world and all that's going on, and there's sure a lot to feel upset about and negative about. There's a lot of terrible things going on in the world. So there could be a tendency to go, well, I just want to meditate and get to a blissful state and just experience just light and love. Nothing wrong with that. But if you think that your purpose is just to hang out there, then you're not really fulfilling the reason why you were created in the first place. The Sufis say that creation took place so that God could know him, herself, in a way that could only take place through a relationship with manifestation. And I would add to that, through a relationship with every single individual, unique part of manifestation, and everyone who's present here today with us, and everyone who's listening to this recording later, is a unique manifestation of that divinity seeking to awaken to itself through your own experiences in the world. And that can't take place unless you engage in a way that's not separated into an isolated construct, and it's not engaging in the spiritual bypass of just getting out of town and going to some place that just is really wonderful, but it's recognizing and really living in a way to the reality that we are deeply interconnected with everything in existence. So finding a way of engaging in a relationship, whatever it is, and it could be some awful things going on, but finding a way to relate to circumstances that can bring about harmony, that can create a possibility for an openness that was not previously there. So I'd like to read you a little passage from Hazrat Khan about rhythm and harmony. Does it not teach us that there are two important things to remember? One is to develop the sense of harmony in one's everyday life, and to develop the sense of rhythm in everything one does. If one has developed the sense of harmony and yet has not known the secret of rhythm, he or she will still have difficulties. And if one knows the rhythm and how to fit in with the rhythm of the universe, and yet has no sense of the nature and secret of harmony, then they will also meet with failures. It teaches us that the whole of life is music, and to study it, we must study it as music. It is not only study, but as practice that makes the human perfect. If anyone told me, Hazrat Khan, that person is a miserable or a wretched person or a distressed person, the answer will be he or she is out of tune. So I thought I would bring along some music for us to listen to. We listened to a documentary on Netflix about, what was his name, Wayland? It was a wonderful musician, but anyway, he was talking about what he aimed to do with his music. Like if he experienced some just dissonance in life, he would find something to play that would harmonize with it. So I'm going to play some music that I'm sure you've heard before. This is Bach's Tocatta and Fugue. And what a fugue is like it's these two competing themes. There's this one, it sounds like they're battling with each other. But listen what happens after a while with these two pieces, how they come together in such a beautiful way where neither one disappears into the other. Both still maintain their song, but now they find a way of relating that is just truly beautiful. Well, you never know what YouTube is going to throw at you. So even in the midst of something wonderful, that we can't always stop pop-up ads, but we can laugh at them.
Okay, I can go on from there. This reminds me very much about the topic I brought up in one of the other classes, where we have someone that, let's say that we had an idea, what we wanted to have going on today, and then a partner or somebody else is saying, oh, well, you know what would be really great, and they have a totally different idea, and there you both are. A lot of times there's one of us that will say, well, sure, honey, that's fine, whatever you want to be doing. And the other one is saying, yeah, I want to do what I want to do. And it goes that way for a long time, and there's really never any sharing or changing that. We're looking for harmony, remember. So one thing that could happen is that the one who usually says, oh, fine, honey, and goes along with it, says, well, we've actually done the things that you've wanted the last couple of times. How about if I take a turn this time? Let me tell you more about what I wanted to be doing. And kind of is better at explaining it, and instead of just fading back into the background, comes forward with something. And perhaps this other person will learn something about the situation. And this could be taken in lots of different meetings that happen where someone's been appreciating the others but really not putting their ideas in, or else they listen to the ideas but they had an idea that would really help that other idea. And on the other side of it, those people that learn to be maybe more compassionate and more open to newness and something that would come from left field perhaps. And so finding ways in groups to be more harmonious, which sometimes means speaking up more or listening to others more. There's a tempering that can happen where there's a surprise there too, where you go, well, how in the world, and we talk about that a lot, don't we? We plan classes that way too, where we go, wow, I never thought of that, and you never thought of that. Where did that come from, right? Sometimes people think that there's a new presence that's brought to the discussion because of people being open to something like that. So you're not abandoning your own ideas, you're embracing something else. You have something here?
No, go ahead.
Okay. And so another way to harmonize and use, another practice that you could use is one that takes a difficult time that we might be having, and it's called the smoother of the way. So it makes things easier. Now, we don't always want to do that, right? We don't want to, oh, it's got to be easier. But no, but there are some times. I have a friend who's had an operation, and she's just coming back to full health and everything, and this, actually I gave her this practice. But I think all of us could try this and have it as a possibility. See what it feels like in your being. Use your compass now and see how that works with the harmony in your own being. So the sound of it is Yahani, Yahani, and it's spelled Yah, Y-A, Hani, G-H, which is kind of more of a sound in Arabic, Yahani, but it sounds like honey too. And remember, the meaning of it is smoother of the way, so you might be able to remember it just because of the honey and the smoothing of the way. So what you do with it, and he did already a good introduction of it, but I'm going to add a little bit, intoning this sound and imagining the feeling of it being smoothing your way. And it's kind of wonderful. You have opportunities in spiritual practice to take something that is a sound and then use it kind of like a, let's see, what would it be? A tool that would do something to your inner self. You know, it's kind of a strange thing to be doing, but it really does make a change in our being to try it. Also, it has to do with divine generosity, the generosity of the divine to give us a little bit more. It's like, well, we have all of these beautiful things. Why do we need something to smooth the way, some little honey? It's okay. You're my dearest, the divine is saying. Here's something just for you, for right now, for this moment. So take that as a gift. So what we're going to be doing is saying this sound, and it could be that you're thinking of a situation in your life that needs some smoothing, or you can just use it as kind of feel this gift that is here for the whole world and enjoy it. So again, it's Yahani, Yahani. So join me. Yahani, 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 Yahani. Let's pause for a moment. You can also locate it somewhere. Like I like to put it in my heart. You could put it in your third eye. You could put it like a robe around you. Or you could think of somebody and offer it to them. So think of that as you continue. Yahani, 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 Yahani. And let's pause here. And now there's the part of this practice where we're not saying it aloud, but we're saying it internally. So in this one, as you inhale, just inhale. But as you exhale, think Hani and bringing it into life. So you do this at your own speed, just breathing in silently, breathing out, and thinking Hani, no sound. And finally, the last part of the practice, in which you don't worry about your breath, you're just breathing without thinking anything in particular, but you are just kind of radiating this feeling of Hani. It's all around you and inside you, and you're being aware of it, and allowing it to permeate you and the rest of the world. Amen. And I did want to say that all of these practices, the two that Don shared with us and this one, they're all the names of God. So how beautiful. There's all the different names, and they all have different kinds of focus or elements to it, or different ways to harmonize. And, after learning for a long time, it's kind of like you have a little laboratory of different things that you can use in different situations. This is a beautiful one.
So I'd like to read a few more quotes from Hazar Inayat Khan. I love this one. Beauty is born of harmony. What is harmony? Harmony is right proportion, in other words, right rhythm. And what is life? Life is the outcome of harmony. At the back of the whole creation is harmony, and the whole secret of creation is harmony. Intelligence longs to attain to the perfection of harmony. Ultimately, good is harmony itself. For instance, all the different principles and beliefs of the religions of this world, taught and proclaimed by priests and teachers, but which people are not always able to follow and express, come naturally from the heart of a person who attunes himself to the rhythm of the universe. Their every action, every word they speak, every feeling they have, every sentiment they express is all harmonious. It is all virtue. It is all religion. It is not following a religion, it is living a religion, making one's life a religion, which is necessary. So now I want to talk about the natural cycles and rhythms of life itself, because we would like it if things are going to just always be harmonious and nice and smooth. But I doubt there's anybody present here today or listening to this who has not had times in your life when things were not that way, when there were upheavals and losses and tragedies and griefs and so on. So our progress is not linear and continuous, it's discontinuous. There are stages, but there's a demarcation between the different stages where there's always an in-between state where, for whatever reason, it feels like the rug's been pulled out from underneath us. So the nature, and I talked about this last time, of life itself is self-organization, always seeking to organize to a higher state of being. But in that process of self-organization, there has to be a chaotic in-between state in which you can't really tell what's going on. So if you were from another planet and you saw the chrysalis of the caterpillar not yet becoming the butterfly, and you opened it up and there was just liquid in there, you couldn't possibly know what that was about. You would have no way of knowing what was going to emerge from that. You could break it into its chemical elements and so on, but you couldn't know what it was going to be. And so when we're in those in-between states in our life, we can't have harmony in the way we would like to have it be, like just, okay, I understand, and everything is just nice and smooth and lovely. But what we can do is maintain a sense of equanimity and faith and confidence that we're always moving towards a greater state of beingness and awakening in our own life. And sometimes that happens when we shift from, the Sufis talk about maqam, I've talked about this before, M-A-Q-A-M, which are stations in our life, periods where we have lessons to learn and so on. And once we've finished those lessons, like we don't stay in the 4th grade forever, or the 5th grade, and so on. It's time to move on to new kinds of experiences. But what's our tendency to do? We want security, and so we tend to want to just hold on to the old ways of being, but they're not working anymore because something new is trying to come through. It'd be like a crab that didn't know about molting, and it started to feel like it was shedding its shell. It go, oh no, I'm going to get some glue and glue things back together because this is my home. It can't fit in there anymore. It's got to shed that and be in this vulnerable state for something else to come through. So there's a rhythm to that in our life. There's cycles in not only our own life, but in the world. You can look at history. There's never been a continuity of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years where everything is just beautiful. And in Hinduism, they talk about the different kalpas, or ages, like the Iron Age, the Copper Age, the Gold Age, and so on. And these are maybe billions of years, but they don't stay in one. There's always moving on to another one. There's always change inherent in life. So part of the bigger picture of being able to maintain harmony is to see past the surface appearance of what's going on in our own life, but also in our external circumstances and also in the world at large, and open up to a perspective that can see how things are evolving to something. Like the way the world is right now, obviously something has got to change. It can't continue this way. Either everything is going to get wiped out, or we're going to find a new way of being in the world in relationship to nature that's going to enable prosperity to take place. But because there's such polarity, that's why things are so traumatic and chaotic. But it has to go through periods like that. But we don't have to allow ourselves to become polarized in reaction to that. We can, sometimes we wonder, well, what can we do about the situation with Israel and Gaza? Well, probably not much directly. We can't fly over there and bring aid or whatever. But one thing we could do, and there's these wonderful Buddhist prayers, like there's one where you fill in the blanks. So it's like with the thought of peace, let me encompass the world, and may that peace increasing without limit encompass the whole universe up to its confines. And you feel like you're joining in and all the other millions of beings praying for peace and adding your vibration to that hopefully is going to create an atmosphere that eventually may result in a change in a circumstance that seems intractable and hopeless. So there's always something that we can do, but it a lot of times has to do with the way that we be, not the actions that we necessarily are capable of doing. If you're familiar with the I Ching, it's the Chinese Book of Changes is what it's called. There's 64 different hexagrams that represent different energy states in life and in the world, and it's profound wisdom in there. And sometimes one might be, well, this is a time of great bounty and growth, and there's going to be success in what you do. And there's another one called the darkening of the light, and it's like this is a time when you're not going to be able to bring about great things, but it's like you just regroup to your center and hold to that essential nature of your being, almost like a seed that's latent and it's going to take a while to germinate and produce something that is going to come from it. So it's helpful to have these different perspectives about what harmony might mean for us, and realize that it's not always necessarily going to be fixing things right now. And this beautiful practice Diane had us do, Hani, I've started lately thinking about that not only as smoothing out the present, but smoothing out what's yet to come in the future. And I'll give you just some kind of silly examples. So I've got all these different supplements and medicines that I take, and I put them out every week, but sometimes a bottle is getting pretty low. And I could just wait till it's empty, but then the next time I'm going to put them out, I'm going to have to go get that one or this one. And so I think about being kind to my future self, and I'll go get another bottle and put it behind there, so when that does run out, there it is. Or thinking of things that you can do for somebody else that's going to make things easier for them, like the soap is just about run out for the dishwashing liquid. Well, maybe you get out another one, or maybe you refill something. You refill the olive oil bottle, so the other person doesn't have to fill it up because it's totally
I'll
empty.
add something here. Well, first of all, he does. He's very kind. You know, that toilet paper roll is always right there when it's time to put it out. Very sweet. And the other part of it is that, so, I mean, in a way, how can putting products out for somebody help the wars and things like that? Well, get out our compass again, because there is something that happens to our beings by things that he's talking about here, and it's not, whatever happens to each one of us is not only done for us. I'm looking at you because I know that we come from different kinds of backgrounds, but we have these same kinds of ideas that, so what is done, let's say, is a grace, a beauty, a harmony that we bring in that is like a general kind of blessing. It's not a specific thing like the toilet paper itself. It is something that is added to humanity. And I always love the story. There's one teacher that was a wonderful teacher in India, but he didn't have very many people to teach. And so he taught one person mostly. And this person became a great teacher that taught many, many people. That doesn't mean that it's all about how many people that you teach. It is about, you don't know what it is that you are adding, but when you're working from the goodness of your heart and from returning the blessings that you have received, doing the things that you know are a wonderful thing to be doing, it adds to the total wisdom and energy of the whole, because we are all connected. So this, you know, you would say, well, I'm not sure how my compass will look if there's something like that. You might have several wheels. One is the wheel of all, and you say, well, there wasn't a little kind of change that happened from this, but there's something that's added at the bottom. The bottom wheel is, it's this wonderful wheel that seems to be very quietly and consciously moving, and I know that I'm a part of that.
So what are some practicalities of things that we can do in our outer life?
Yeah.
Well, we all have people that are difficult, that we have to deal with in one way or another, right? People you wish they would move out of town, or you just didn't have to interact with them. And so what our natural tendency is to react to them when we're around them. And even if we don't say anything, we're putting out a vibe, which the other person picks up on, even if it's not consciously. And if they're a difficult person, chances are just about everybody they interact with is putting out that same vibe, which reinforces their sense that people don't like them. Well, I don't like them either, and they get just more and more stuck in their own construct. But all the people that are reacting are just as stuck in their own constructs about their response. So Pure Vilayat would often encourage us when we're in a circumstance like that to try to put ourselves into the consciousness of the other person. And it could be just imagining reasons why that person might be the way that they are. Well, maybe they're sick, we don't know what's wrong with them, or maybe they have a loved one that's sick, or maybe they just lost their job, or maybe they can't pay their bills, or whatever. We have no idea, and it puts them in a sour mood. But if we can then soften and open our hearts to them and find a way of relating that gets past that superficial way of responding, then it's going to help be a catalyst or kind of plant a seed in that other person, at least with you, to respond in a different way than they're used to. So we can do that. Little things that we can do. Diane and I go for walks every morning, and we have to go across Yorktown. There's always a lot of traffic there, and there's one place where there's very well marked crosswalk, but hardly anybody ever stops, and so you got to wait till the light changes way down there, get across. But every so often, some nice person will stop, and then the people in the other, it's 2 lanes on each side, have to stop, and we'll wave and smile at them. But just that little act of kindness might have a triggering effect. Maybe the other people realize, maybe I'll do something nice for somebody today. This other person didn't have to do that. Most people don't do that. And the person that stopped probably feels good that they did something nice for us, so it can be like a chain reaction. Okay. But we can apply this to our own life. When we're going through a difficult period, we can expand the scope of our consciousness of our life and think about past experiences, anticipated ones in the future, and seeing all of this as part of our own story. Next week, we're going to be talking about what the Sufis call the allegory of the soul, which is like the purposeful story of our existence that continues even beyond this physical life. And we're always in the process of creating that, but oftentimes we're on autopilot. And instead of creating something, we're just projecting ahead a little bit of a logical continuation of the way that things have been for us. And so the thought that occurred to me, that instead of that being furthering the allegory of the soul, we're adding to the fictional story of our constructed ego. It's like this construct we have of ourselves has its own story of who we are, and it's trying to make things fit in with that, so there's kind of this book of that. But when we can get ourselves out of that and open to the bigger story, so much more room to breathe, so to speak. We can free ourselves from that constriction. We don't have to stay stuck in that.
Well, how about leading us in a meditation?
Okay. So let's do a little WD-40 for the soul meditation. So I'd like to begin this meditation by telling you about something that scientists have discovered not too long ago called time crystals. The usual crystal has this perfect order of where the atoms and molecules are to make beautiful crystal and so on, and the way that the light goes through it. But it's an order that's in present time and space. That's one kind of crystal. But they found that there's such a thing as another kind of crystal that evolves over time, and the alignment is not taking place in space, but it's taking place over different times. So imagine that our life is a wonderful, unique expression of the divine manifesting as a time crystal in existence. You are a jewel of the divine being that is constantly transforming and being transformed and bringing about transformation, and is changing over time through your life experiences, through your awakening. And what's the fuel of this process of transformation? It's every experience that you have. Every experience. The good ones, the bad ones, the difficulties, the joys, the sorrows. They're all the fuel for this beautiful formation of this crystal. And just as the diamond is created by the tremendous pressures deep in the earth of the carbon, our souls experience experiences in existence are forged through our life experiences over time. So feel yourself in the process of continually emerging into a more and more wonderful and beautiful jewel of divinity, unique in all the universe. And one property of this jewel of your being is that all the light that comes to you, whether through inner experiences or through connections with other manifestations of unique divinity in the world, that light is transformed by this alignment throughout time and even beyond time of the jewel of your being. You are a catalyst for divinity emerging more and more fully in life. And just as you are a catalyst, you are also being continually transformed and made more beautiful by the unique relationship you have with the light of everything that you experience. People, nature, the sky. Beings of subtle realms, angels and archangels. The light of all the masters and saints and prophets of every religion known or unknown to the world. All that light is transforming you as you are transforming all that you are connected with. Hazrat Khan talks about spiritual circulation through the veins of nature. And what is it that circulates through the veins of nature? It is light. And how does the divine being experience the divine's own self? Through light, through the returning light that comes from everything in every realm of existence. And how do we experience the divine being? Through the descending light. The light that descends from the transcendent and the light that comes to us expressed through every other manifestation of divinity. And together these veins of nature carrying this light comprise a cosmic being beyond comprehension that we're all parts of. We're all parts of the body of. And we can add the music that comes from the harmony of our own being to the music of the spheres that continually sings forth the song of divinity and continually is changing and made more and more beautiful. And may the heavens be reflected on the earth, Lord, that the earth may turn into heaven. Amen.